Hello. What's up, everybody? So for all of the upbeat videos that I post to this channel, it could seem like all of life as a therapist in private practice is total and complete bliss. But if we're honest, when it comes to the type of work that we do, compassion fatigue and burnout are quite common. And it doesn't take long for burnout to spiral into more serious mental health concerns. So in this video, I offer some early signs of therapist burnout and offer some tools to cope with it. Welcome to Private Practice Skills. I'm Dr. Marie Fang, psychologist in private practice. I post videos offering tools I learned the hard way about starting and growing private practice so that you don't have to. Okay, so let's be real. The type of work that we do makes it incredibly easy to burn out. To help us understand therapist burnout a bit better, I'll reference a 2006 article in the Journal of Marital and Family Therapy throughout this video. I've linked to the article in the description box if you're interested in reading it. It's quite interesting. So first, let's start by answering the question, what is burnout? In the article's literature review, they define burnout as, quote, a syndrome of physical and emotional exhaustion resulting from the development of negative self-concept, negative job attitudes, and a loss of concern or feeling for clients, end quote. And they describe burnout as, quote, a process rather than the experience of isolated symptoms otherwise correlated with the syndrome. Now, fortunately, for those of us who are working in private practice, one of the findings of the study is that of the therapists the researchers assessed, those in private practice experienced higher levels of personal accomplishment and lower levels of burnout overall, based on results from the Maslick Burnout Inventory, or MBI. But don't be tempted to think that those of us who are in private practice are totally exempt from burnout. This article outlines the signs of burnout into 3 categories. I'll break down each of these signs here. The physical signs include chronic fatigue, gastrointestinal problems, insomnia, headaches, and hypertension. The emotional indicators include feelings of hopelessness, futility, and despair, boredom and cynicism, anxiety, withdrawal, and irritability, loss of morale, feelings of isolation and depression, and suicidal ideation. The third dimension reflects signs of exhaustion, which include lowered self-concept, increased inflexibility, distancing from clients, treating clients as causes rather than as people, disbelief in effectiveness, and increased family and social conflict. Whew, that got heavy really quickly. I mean, that is a lot that can happen within the umbrella of burnout. Now remember, burnout operates on a continuum rather than being a sort of threshold where you're either burnt out or you're totally fine. So I encourage you to think about whether you're sort of on a vector towards burnout or if you're on a vector towards something healthier than burnout. And if you are on a vector towards burnout, even if you're not displaying very many of these signs, it's much better to change course now rather than waiting for the burnout to set in and causing more havoc. Now, before we dive into some tools to help cope with burnout, there's one interesting finding from the study that's worth highlighting. This study found a negative correlation between age and burnout. So in other words, the older a therapist is, the less likely they are to burn out. This makes intuitive sense to me. I mean, as we get older, we have more life experience and hopefully we gain emotional maturity. However, with that said, it's not uncommon for therapists to see the highest need clients early on in their career, and over time as they gain more experience to see lower and lower risk clients as they progress in their career. That certainly was true for me, and it just seems a bit backwards. So it's something to chew on, nothing to do about it here. But with all that said, chances are much higher for early career therapists to burn out, especially for those of us seeing higher needs clients earlier on. So here are some tools to help you change course if you're starting to notice some signs of burnout. Now, especially for those therapists who are earlier on in their career, there is some suggestion in the research that case consultation and personal therapy can be really helpful in reducing the effects of burnout. This finding didn't seem to necessarily apply so much for more seasoned therapists, but certainly if you're more advanced in your career and you're not getting support, I encourage you to find some. Also, higher number of hours worked per week corresponded with higher rates of exhaustion and burnout. So it's worth exploring if you have any flexibility to work fewer hours per week. If you're working in private practice and you need to sustain your current income level, then I encourage you to consider raising your rates and seeing fewer clients. I have a whole video all about raising your rates and I'll link to that below. Next, see if it's an option to work with lower needs clients, even if it's just temporary. This is particularly effective in helping reduce burnout for early career therapists. If it isn't an option to work with lower needs clients, then see if there's any opportunity to get additional training, supervision, or other supports that help you feel a greater sense of agency when you're working with these clients. Hopefully this next one goes without saying, but I'm gonna say it. Take more breaks. Now, I notice a lot of therapists feel like they need to be available to their clients almost 24/7, or at least they can't go a string of days without being available to their clients. And this just isn't true. As long as you put the proper precautions and supports in place, then taking a vacation is incredibly helpful to you. And not taking a vacation, not only could it be harmful to you, but it could be harmful to your clients if you're burning out and you're seeing them as like a project rather than as a person who needs your help. Now, if even after you make all of these changes, you're noticing that you're still headed towards burnout, it's completely okay to take a moment and ask yourself if you're in the right job right now. Not every job is the right fit for every therapist, so see if there's a job that is the best fit for you, or at the very least helps reduce your risk of moving towards burnout. Now, if you're wanting to explore whether you're in the early or maybe later phases of burnout, I've found the Professional Quality of Life Scale, or PROQOL, to be a helpful starting point. I've linked to the scale below if you'd like to access it and score it yourself. I find it helpful even if you aren't worried about burnout. It's just one of those personal growth things that, you know, it's fun to do. Well, I hope you found this video helpful as you learn to watch for signs of burnout or potentially catch some burnout that's already underway. Let me know in the comments if there are any tools you would add to the ones I named here to help cope with burnout. And until next time, from one therapist to another, I wish you well. Today's video is brought to you by TherapyNotes.com. TherapyNotes helps with scheduling, notes, and billing so that you can spend more time with your clients and less time on back office paperwork. Click the link in the description of this video to get 2 months to try it for free with no commitment.
Do you know the Muffin Man, the Muffin Man, the Muffin Man? Do you know the Muffin Man? Do you know the Muffin Man, the Muffin Man, the Muffin Man? Do you know the Muffin Man?